Marvel's Midnight Suns combines a tight, occasionally puzzly XCOM-esque tactical combat skeleton with a Persona-reminiscent dating sim musculature, covered by a thin, if satisfying dermis of exploring the spooky grounds of the Suns' home base, not unlike what I remember from the early Harry Potter games. But it also features prominently a mechanic that I usually don't enjoy, be it in card games or tactical turn-based games. A focus on movement, positioning, and enemy displacement. I generally don't enjoy it much, be it in Banner Saga, the otherwise excellent fights in tight spaces. Hell, despite loving Inkbound dearly, I have little enthusiasm for the skill that hits a guy with another guy. So I groaned when I saw in the tutorial that Doctor Strange's Winds of Watum card dealt no damage but instead knocked an enemy back. In my mind, betraying a focus on positioning and displacement to come. But having put in a cool 50 hours and beaten the game, I've since warmed up to it, and it has become a surprisingly enjoyable core pillar of the game for me. First of all, unlike many other examples in the genre, Midnight Suns' movement always seems to give you multiple options. It's rarely a binary where you either move and get to have your turn, or you can do nothing if you cannot move. I feel like that's at least partially helped by the game using freeform targeting instead of hexes or tiles. I personally enjoy fishing for that perfect angle, but more importantly, since it is technically a skill gate, it allows the devs to not be overly precious with allowing you to do fun stuff with it. The game generally allows you to do something cool with your movement every turn, and your motivation behind using it is rarely so I'm allowed to do anything, but instead it's more positive. You'll have so many things to do with your movement. You can position so you have the perfect angle required for the use of an environmental effect, which often requires you to be mindful of the position of your hero, the enemy, and also the environmental hazard, because of the thin telegraph involved. You can also use your movement to shove enemies with an early game upgrade, or you can reposition so you are behind the enemy and use another hero to knock that enemy into the hunter for extra damage and possibly other bonuses. Or you can reposition so your knockback skill can smack two enemies against one another. Worst case scenario, you can leave the blast radius of an explosive barrel or the predicted shooting area of a Hydra helicopter. Few of these options feel bad unless you have the perfect setup, which I think is a risk you run having abilities enhanced by positioning, but rather they all feel cool, with a couple of them possibly being even cooler. Secondly, these mechanics are supported by great audiovisuals. You can really see the AA budget at play here. To be frank, most mechanics are helped by being reinforced by powerful audiovisual feedback, and this one is no exception. Smacking a dude with another dude is definitely within expectations of how a superhero fight should look. The animations in Midnight Suns are bombastic, plentiful, and fit the characters involved. But I feel like apart from just enhancing the overall feel of the game generally, it also enhances movement and displacement abilities specifically to an even greater degree. Thirdly, the game features good quality of life functions around movement. You can reposition however many times you want in one move unless you have taken another action, for example. Characters will also automatically move out of hazards when they activate them. So there is little possibility of breaking your turn because you butterfingered on your gamepad or accidentally killing yourself, though that possibility is still non-zero. And since screwing up your movement often not only causes you to waste that movement, but also no longer permits you to have a fun turn, I'd find that especially grating if those quality of life affordances weren't firmly in place. But thankfully, they are. And perhaps most importantly, movement/displacement/positioning is not a standalone system in this game. It plays into a variety of other archetypes and secondary mechanics. Among available characters, you have Spider-Man with his focus on utilizing the environmental effects, which require precise positioning to best aim the telegraph involved. You've got Magic, who makes use of portals. Pushing enemies through them allows for the setup of some crazy angles. And Ghost Rider can summon hazards like holes in the ground, which have a chance to insta-kill enemies thrown into them. On a smaller scale, some characters can only knock enemies backwards, while some of them will be able to choose any direction. For some characters, knockback will be an additional effect appearing on cards that deal damage, while for some other ones it will be the only effect of a card. Out of the 3 characters I mentioned, Magic is probably my fave. Doing even a relatively simple combo with her portals makes me feel like I'm assembling a Rube Goldberg machine, or like I'm Hikaru Nakamura considering a chess position.
So takes, g5, king 6 takes, g6, c6, h5 takes. It goes this way, but this definitely doesn't work.
She's also best girl and Blade is best boy. I will not be involved in discussions pertaining to this topic. So that's a mechanic I found surprisingly enjoyable in Marvel's Midnight Suns. Give the game a try if you haven't already. I've been Simon from Games Deconstructed, click one of the YouTube thingies if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.